Welcome to the Christian Marauder as we continue to explore prophetic fingerprints of the end times and how to identify how close we are to those. Well, the events leading up to the last days, we will actually see a formation, the stage being set up for the Antichrist to arise and rule the world, just as the Bible prophecy tells us. But what will it look like? Well, for starters, it comes by looking at dizzy Ditzes, werewolves, vampires, and don't forget the hyenas, folks. Well, folks, what are you talking about, Brian? I mean, have you lost it? No, this is all true. However, and not the way you expect. But what do you expect from a show like today where we kind of think out of the box? So we are going to look at paradise for parasites, for the dizzy Ditzes, werewolves, and vampires that we see in our halls of government. And let's not forget the hyenas, too. Well, what are they? What are you talking about, brother? Well, have you ever heard of AOC, Alexandria Cortez, and the Squad? Wow, these are four dizzy, anti-Semitic, racist Ditzes lecturing us on racism. How you like that? There's nothing is done to them. They get away with everything you can imagine. They are even encouraged by more dizzy Ditzes like none other than Nancy Pelosi, a real progressive ditzy ditz who spews venom better than any viper can possibly spit. You know, folks, she thinks the United States is a very evil place. Well, if it's such an evil, bad place, why are people flocking, knocking over the borders to get into this country? Why aren't they running to the socialist utopias like Cuba or Venezuela and China, knocking on their borders, rushing into it to get in to find freedom of socialism where everything is free? Well, in fact, the whole worldwide liberal establishment is ditzy Ditzes, intoxicated with power, taking over everything, and nothing at all, if you haven't noticed, nothing at all is done to stop them. And I tell you, folks, it is absolutely maddening. When the restraints are removed, evil is emboldened, just like the Bible says, and the werewolves come out to play. What are werewolves? Well, Werewolf Joe, who is very hands-on with the ladies, if you haven't noticed. Birthing persons here, especially young ones of elementary school age who look 19 because of the way an elementary school age birthing person crosses its birthing person's legs, as Werewolf Joe did on May 28, 2021, during a speech at a military base captured in video that is now seen worldwide. When the moon is full, the political werewolves come out into its own element. We see them in the fields of science and education, attempting climate change legislation that keeps the moon full all the time, year round, just to keep them drunk on power. And these werewolves are real narcissistic control freaks who parrot Klaus Schwab's Build Back Better phraseology. And these folks want to detoxify maleness in our country, while China, their hero, the Chi-Coms, are encouraging maleness in their own country. They also have their werewolf armies on the march right now, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and anarchist werewolves who get away with murder, blinding police officers with laser, beating up people, causing mayhem. And folks, these criminals are just simply released right back into the streets with no repercussions whatsoever. Chaos is running amok in many U.S. cities right now, all because of the werewolf armies that the werewolf politicians hide behind to do their dirty work. In fact, the Portland police riot team recently resigned en masse. Over 50 officers resigned while the leftist dizzy Ditz armies and the werewolves won this time. And innocent, law-abiding people are scared to death while they are in the throes of being disarmed so the masses can have at them. Those werewolves can tear them to pieces. Boy, we live in a free country, don't you think? Well, they wanted to defund the police. Why? The answer is simple. To create a national police force whose aim it is to protect the werewolves, the vampires, and the dizzy Ditzes, to control the population by fear. I said that over a year ago, and now it's made the news on Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, if you know who that is now coming out and saying it. Maybe somebody might listen to them. We'll see. Whoops, folks, I almost forgot the hyenas. They are predators. Did you know that? Hyenas are predators. They run in large packs, looking for the weak and the lazy to hunt. So when they quarry their prey, they sound like they are laughing. So we have Hyenas and her gleeful admirers who can't get enough of her laughing, while people living on the border states suffer under extreme adverse circumstances. They quarry their prey into silence. How? Because hyenas run in large packs. We see them as fawning press agents eating faceless hyena cookies served aboard an Air Force II jet plane. Next, Hyenas is hosting a dinner party on June 17th, and I wonder if they'll serve cookies there. Next, there are vampires out there too, folks, but not the kind you think, who like to drain the lifeblood out of the economy, turning the entire world into a parasite paradise. You got that right. So, folks, we have Chi-Com Vampires, who flexes its vast wealth to control the world's politicians, educational system, media, news, entertainment, and science field, so forth, etc. The Chi-Com Vampires would never promote wokeness in their own country, but demand that all others do or else. Why? Go woke or go broke. Did you know that the Chi-Coms made plans to conquer the entire world without fighting a major war during its first 100 years? It's in their constitution, and that 100-year mark comes in 2049. They support the worldwide cultural revolution known as cancel culture. They fund it through Western werewolves, hyenas, and dizzy Ditzes and vampires who are rich elitists, mesmerizing all, vampire-like, saying, "Come. Come, build back better, come." You hear Boris Johnson, build back better. You hear Macron, build back better. And you hear Werewolf Joe, build back better. Mesmerizing the masses like a vampire. The world elite want to flip the world's economy into a one-world currency with credit scores, as Vampire Klaus Schwab of the United Nations, no less, World Economic Forum says, that you'll own nothing, you're going to be happy about it. You can't go anywhere and travel, but you're going to be happy about it. You're going to be bored to tears because we control everything you do, mass control, but we solve global warming, we solve the world's ills, and we control you. They love you. Did you know that billionaire and corporate giants are buying up houses and farms and building massive apartment complexes across the United States as well as some of the Western countries? And you got to ask the question, why are they doing this? Well, you, like Klaus Schwab says, you're going to own nothing, be happy about it, and you will only be able to rent and not own anything. Makes sense now, doesn't it? Did you know that vampires, hyenas, and werewolves hide in the dark, yet openly howl, revealing their plans? And some hyenas laugh a lot too, like Hyenas. Yet nothing is done about it. They capture the entire systems in the country with one bite, convert them into parasites just like themselves. Have you seen that? And in the United States, they own the Department of Homeland Security. They own the National Security Agency. They own the CIA. They have captured the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and they now have control of the FBI and are taking control of our military, going woke now. The greatest threat? Not foreign powers like the Chi-Com or the Russians or any other foreign actors out there. No, it's the people in their own country. They want to turn paradise into a place for parasites. Well, anyway, I digress. And folks, did you not know that the incident that happened in the first month of 2021 in the United States of America, as Tucker Carlson of Fox News recently pointed out on June 16, 2021, that the FBI agents shared rooms and helped organize the hotheads for a real red flag event? Now Joe's werewolf handlers are again crying out, "Domestic terrorists! Get the military, purge your ranks of anybody who loves their country to go after the insurrectionists." That the FBI was in the buildings who helped orchestrate this red flag event to go through. And even in the halls of Congress and Senate hearing, they're interviewing an admiral and several leading generals and admirals up there in the ranks going woke. Can't they figure out we're in the midst of a revolution of domestic terrorists? How did all this start, folks? It all began as the Apostle John wrote in 1 John 4, chapter 4, verse 3. The spirit of Antichrist is already at work in the world. The Antichrist system is a reflection of Satan, leading to the revealing and bringing forth the Antichrist into the world. And an end-time Bible prophecy is all about that. And the fingerprints we see before his arising is what we're seeing now happen. Dizzy Ditzes and vampires and hyenas and werewolves, human ones, are out to play and have free reign. And it's worldwide. It's just not one country. It is a political, economic, religious system of central planning and utter dominance over a population, the entire world, that is. It has been seen in the rule of kings, emperors, gelling with great merchants and elites of the earth to create a paradise for parasites. No other way to say it, no other way to be nice about it. And they do this all for the noblest reason, like this is good food for you. It's pleasant to behold one's personal gain, and it improves one's self-pride that comes by being wiser than God himself to control it all, to build it back better by dictating what is right and wrong, what's good and evil. This is seen in the events leading up in the 1789 French Revolution. What does this have to do with anything? Stay tuned and find out. The king and his elite cronies were utterly corrupt snobs, people who were revolting, so they attempted a reform and made a form of government to help correct the wrongs inflicted upon the masses, while they remained the parasites in paradise. They wanted to retain that. So they would rule through a divided government called the estates. The estates were divided into three branches of government called, well, a state, to make needed reforms, okay? The first estate was made up of 291 delegates, mostly parish priests and a few educated poor, in order to bring forth justice to the common man. The second estate was made up of 270 noble and middle class sympathetic to reforms that benefit the people of France, that stop the exploitation, stop the breaking of laws that were made for thee but not for me, the kind that the Democrats and liberal elites of the world run the world by, you know. These nobles want to stop that. So they had a vast majority against the third estate. The third estate was made up of 578 lawyers, major businessmen, government employees, the uber wealthy, and the king, who wanted to retain their power to rule and control all things so they can make paradise for parasites. The third estate found itself outvoted and decided to flex its muscle to save France from its own people, who they held with utter contempt. Sound familiar? So in June 1879, the third estate created a one-party system called the National Assembly as a sole power worthy to legislate, nullifying the other two branches of government as mere props. After this utter chaos broke out, a great reset occurred, and a dictator named Napoleon Bonaparte came into power to try to rule the world. This is historical fact. Look it up, folks. This pattern is seen throughout history. One political party made up of the elite class, uber-wealthy businessmen and lawyers and major business people and government employees, oversight committee, so forth, in the media of its day, form a monopoly of power, and then all chaos breaks forth. Then a dictator emerges from the ashes, and total control of the economy is what results, and the total control of the world is attempted. That's the pattern through history. That is a prophetic fingerprint seen all throughout history, from Nebuchadnezzar's day in France in 1789, and seen all throughout history, folks. Does all this sound familiar? It sounds what the Democrat parasite party is doing now, and the liberal parties over Europe are doing right now. The economic chaos of the 1920s and 30s, in fact, brought forth Adolf Hitler and the Nazis to power. Out of chaos, order comes, you know. Have you forgot that the Nazis were involved in the occult, like the World Society and all the dark arts and crafts too, and runes and casting of spells? I don't know if you really realize that, but they were. Just check it out. They turned Germany into a police state where only one pure political race was allowed to rule. Sound familiar? The Nazis made a plan for a new world order based upon bringing forth a new economic world order. Even if they won through or lost the war, in fact, they were going to create a one world economic system. In fact, they had a plan and they wrote about it. In fact, Hitler's economic minister, his name was Walter Funk, in 1940 unveiled this plan before an audience of pawning hyena journalists. This plan involved a post-war world where the Nazis would bind all the world's currencies together into a joint economic system. In other words, you just have one system here. How? By first removing the gold reserve of a country and render it unnecessary. Thus they reasoned they would make a new stable economic world which they would use to control people in conquered and unconquered lands. You control the money, you control their healthcare, you control them. That was the idea. Why is all this even relevant today? The answer is simple. It reveals what is being played out and what we're seeing happen today from the very historical record, from the very fingerprints of prophecy being carried out, so we can know how close we are to the end days. That's why it matters. See, the Allies during World War II held a conference in an American hotel called the Bretton Woods. That lasted 3 weeks in July 1944. There were 730 delegates from 44 Allied nations gathered together, led by 4 main Allied countries, the UK, America, Russia, and China, to discuss the future global condition of the world after World War II ends and how to rebuild it, how to reshape it, how to build it back better, lack for a better phraseology here. They planned there to change the entire global economy. And there were 2 main men were involved in this. Don't have time to get into a lot of detail here, but the first was John Maynard Keynes of the United Kingdom of Britain, who birthed Keynesian economics. The second was Harry Dexter White of the United States, and there was others there too that I don't have time to get into. But in 1940, Keynes was given the Nazi economic plan in order to discredit it and make sure it doesn't happen. In fact, what happened is he fell in love with it and kept over a third of the Nazi plans and modified the rest into what is now known as Keynesian economics. Just think of the tax and spend plan of the Democrats and Liberal Party. He won over a wide array of government supporters and government agencies to support this. And through Mr. Dexter White, he influenced Roosevelt too, probably even before that. Both John Keynes and Harry White read the Nazi plan. That's a fact, historical record. After the war, American Harry Dexter White of the USA was convicted, believe it or not, of being a communist agent, a real vampire that the light exposed while it still could. And stop that puppy. In the early 1920s, Lenin, who held a Russian Revolution, wanted a worldwide communist revolution by violence to take over the world. He tried this by a military invasion of Poland in 1920, and the Polish people miraculously, and I say miraculously defeated them, thus stopping communism from spreading into Europe and the world. After Lenin died in 1924, the Communist Party decided to infiltrate government, corporate, educational, media, and other means by slow subversion as the best means to take over the Western world and the Eastern world. So they sent agents into the United States, UK, France, etc., so forth, etc., to carry this plan out, like Dexter Harry White. So Dexter Harry White worked closely with President Roosevelt, and he was one such operative, and possibly Keynes was too, along with the Nazi tax and spend plan for prosperity to create equity for all. Their economic plan called for the economies of the post-war era to join all their currencies of the world together and to get rid of the gold standard worldwide or precious metals. Any type of economy is based on precious metals, to get rid of it. So Keynes wrote a book in the 1930s called A Treatise on Money. That was about creating a supranational bank currency called a Bancor that would tie all the world's currencies together into a new type of world bank and monitoring system to control its value. This was done so that there would never be an economic depression ever again. He had noble intent to try to stop an economic depression. And he also wants to stop wars too, because they just got out of World War I, but never realizing they're heading for World War II because of some of his policies, but I digress. So the elites banded together to flip governments into this new economic system because they planned it this way. The Bancor would hold more value than any nation's currency, so all would eventually shift to it. How would they accomplish this shift? By creating and increasing the national debt of a country. So this new Bancor currency would be lent to a nation to pay off its national debt, because he who controls a national debt controls the country. I think the Rothschild said that. All for world peace and safety, you know, because the corporate elites know how to run the world better than they do. They're tired of having wars, wiping out their businesses and corporations. So let's just do it underhandedly. Let's just make it into a big kitty where we all get a piece of the pie and silence the opposition, which is the common man. the rise of the third estate into the fourth estate. No other way to say it. Kinsey wanted to create a supranational world police force. That's what his book talks about. That would actually enforce this economic system over other countries and make a future economic government of the world to control entire populations. Mr. Kinsey was an open eugenist. What is that? That means to control the world's population. You have to reduce the world's population. He was a practicing eugenist. This led to the creation of the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944. From it came the formation of the International Monetary Fund that we see today and the World Bank. Hallelujah! So I guess you get an idea where the Federal Reserve comes into play here as well. That led many countries, including the United States of America, to drop its national currency away from the gold or precious metal standard and shift it all to the World Bank, Federal Reserve, the International Monetary Fund. And John F. Kennedy warned them against doing this in 1962 and 63 and mysteriously passed away in 1963. Mr. White was a communist agent involved in this endeavor too, to flip the world into a one-world currency, all based on parts of the 1940 Nazi plan. So the prophetic fingerprints that we will see throughout history involves plans like this. There is an agenda. There's something coming, the likes which we have not seen, ready to hit the world, because this is worldwide now. It's gotten the entire world. They're on the threshold. The vampires are salivating. The werewolves are howling. The hyenas are cackling and laughing and enjoying faceless hyena cookies on Air Force Two. I mean, they are salivating. It doesn't matter if they have a bumbling boob running a country, because that's not who runs the country. It's the world's elites that run the countries of the world now, because they increase the national debt to umpteenth degree, so they make sure that they can control you. But why do I say this? It's because Klaus Schwab is calling for new Bretton Woods type conferences to reset the world's economy. He laid out a plan for it. A lot of it's based on the Nazi plan. But most people in the church, almost the entire world, are absolutely oblivious to this, and they do not realize the hour which we are living is about to fall hard without warning upon the way we live and alter everything we know in an instant, as the Bible predicts in the last days. So in fact, folks, Professor Klaus Schwab was born in 1938's Hitler's Germany, Hitler's police state, that was built upon fear and brainwashing of youth. Klaus Schwab says he rejects all that, yet the apple does not fall far from the tree, you know. He is a new communist. Communists and fascist Nazis are the same. No difference, really. In 1971, he founded the UN World Economic Forum to guide the world into a brave new world, a new golden dawn, a real paradise for parasites like himself. In 2016, he wrote a book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution and later The Great Reset, where he stressed, just like the clowns at Bretton Woods did, that capitalism does not work and only socialism can save everything by combining all the economies of the world into one big kitty. Only socialism, a mix of super capitalism merged with communism, is going to be able to work and hold the world together and solve all the world's ills and make a brand new man in the process. I bet you didn't know in the 1900s up to the 1950s there was all about making a brand new man, a new image, a new race of beings. I bet you didn't know that, but now you do. And they have plans to do that now. He called for a fourth industrial revolution to merge AI into human beings and create tracking systems to monitor everything that one buys, sells, what we listen to, who influences us. And they keep pushing for new technology to create a green new world order, folks. Klaus Schwab tells that all that is needed for a great reset will come by some sort of crisis created to trigger it. The Great Reset ultimately leads to a one-world currency where one owns nothing and you will be absolutely happy about it. You won't be able to travel no more than 10 kilometers outside your home, but you're going to be happy about it. You got parks and birds singing, and you own nothing and you just rent. And you'll be tagged and tracked by a government enforcing obedience to the great men and merchants of the earth, who rule all governments in the new world order of peace and safety that they will control to ensure peace and safety. And the Bible talks about when you hear peace and safety, great destruction is about to hit the fan. To get there involves creating this order out of chaos. Never mind the terrible pain and suffering and loss of freedom and all the death to get there that's involved, because the ends justify the means to these parasites, folks. Because it's better to housebreak the serfs for their own good, in order to train them to be good global citizens who never threaten the sovereignty of the elites again, just like the pamphlet says of Silent Weapons for Quiet War says. So, and they do this all in order that the third estate turns into the fourth estate, the fourth industrial revolution estate, in order to create the dawn of a new golden age of Aquarius. In fact, Psalms chapter 2, verses 1 through 3 says this: Why do the nations rage, and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bonds in pieces and cast their cords far from us. Let me modernize this for you. This is a build back better from the ashes of the old, a new world order without God, without his compassion, a world well governed and controlled. Even your thoughts will be monitored, according to Klaus Schwab, to ensure total compliance, or else. In fact, many organizations are geared for this and are trying to make it happen. World leaders are touting the Build Back Better slogan, and they suddenly changed. Once they sound conservative, now they're building back better, talking about feminizing the entire male population of their country like Boris Johnson just did. In fact, the Rockefeller Foundation is one that was heavily involved in putting all this together and bringing the Keynesian world economics into form this big kitty, this big economic kitty here. They are decidedly Luciferian, wanting to bring all under one controlled roof to brainwash everyone in a way one world group think, and alter the human genome in order to control the human sin nature that naturally rebels against tyranny, so all simply obey and submit. Why? To protect the sovereignty of the elite, because these corporate great men of the earth know how to control everything. We see them in Revelations chapter 18 realizing that their plan is a bunch of Babylonian stuff. Some BS, some Babylonian stuff, because they're following the Babylonian prostitute that mesmerizes the world, who owns the economic structure. Then one day, everything that made them wealthy is going to go down the proverbial flusher and be gone forever. And they go, whoops, what have we done? We destroyed our prosperity. We entered this crazy guy called the Antichrist, and they made war against us. Wow, we're supposed to control them. Duh. You guys are brilliant. So brilliant. With that, let's look at the pictures again from the 2009 Rockefeller plan called Foresight for Smart Globalization. So you can see these folks are very involved in the occult and explore some of the meanings I could not get out in part 5. And show you how they are actually conjuring and relying on the dark side to carry out this various insidious plan I just spoke about. So folks, let's look at this picture again that's found on page 14 of Foresight for Smart Globalization. It's found on public domain. This picture I showed last time of this, see my cursor here, of this 12-pointed star and the 9 people on it. I just kind of showed you real briefly some of the occult symbols and what they mean and how they're conjuring. But I only mentioned what the straight road mean, and people ask and said, Brian, what does the straight road represent? Well, I wrote it over here. It says the straight road symbolizes both the good road or ways or the bad ways or the bad path. And folks, did you know that the song Stairway to Heaven that Led Zeppelin did talks about there's 2 paths you're on? This is what this is talking about. Right here, this picture is talking about that Led Zeppelin song where the lyrics tell us about there's 2 paths, 2 roads you're on. This is about being on the straight road that combines the 2 roads together and brings unity and harmony. So let's go back and look at the picture again. So you see the straight road right here, okay? And you got to know how to read the symbols and signs and look at the patterns here. So if it is opened at the top, which it is, it's opened at the top here. See the big opening, it Y's out in a big branch here. It is a symbol of the waiting soul. What is a waiting soul? These are the waiting souls here who are involved in conjuring a brave new world. And if it is open below as well, which it is, it forms the y-axis here and another y here that joins it. Okay, do you see that? It symbolizes the coming Redeemer, especially if there is a y seen on connecting with the other y seen here, going to the openness above. Okay, are you beginning to get the picture? This is a symbol of the divine feminine right here. This is considered the womb. This is where the Antichrist will be birthed into the world, okay? This is a symbol of the divine feminine. It gets very pornographic, and I won't get into it. The dark road of chaos indicates the coming satanic anointed one who brings the devil stability, his laws and order, as well as a new age of peace and safety for him, but not so much for humanity, who are so deceived, just like the merchants who help bring them to power and use this type of stuff to do so. So above, the waiting souls conjure to help birth a new world order so the birth of the satanic anointed one can come and rule all and bring all into a new Aquarian age, folks. So with that, let's continue with the picture here and look at some more symbols, like, for example, what the colors mean, as well as some other symbols like Taurus and Aquarius that I showed you before in part 5, what they mean. So with that, let's look. So we're going to go back and review what the 12-pointed star means, plus its 3 magic squares. There's 3 magic squares here. You have 9 people on here in a meditative position, one with the teacup and all that, which I showed you as a play on the Revelations chapter 18 about people drinking the filth of her fornication. That's what that's referring to. They're mocking everything. So these 9 people are arrayed around this 12-pointed star. And the 12-pointed star is used in meditation to aid in focus, to bring the spiritual will, love, and daily life, and to bring all into a Christ consciousness in order to usher in a new Aquarian age. So you have the straight road and the paths merging here to bring order out of chaos, and the straight road will bring a new stability up here, and the divine feminine to bring out this new world leader who will bring it all together, folks, to bring a new Christ consciousness so everybody can go and gel together, live in peace and harmony. Their sin nature is altered by AI being implanted into them, and genetic engineering, so they just only have good, happy thoughts. They'll own nothing, be happy about it, and just be a bunch of jellyheads, probably. The 12-pointed star is a symbol that represents the superior quality of divine wholeness, integrity, what is accomplished by working together to birth forth the dawn of a new age by using Eastern occultic meditation practices and occultic conjuring rite. The 12-pointed star is used to aid and focus forth a group consciousness by triangle meditation, by the triangles that make up the 12-pointed star. There's a triangle there, you see another triangle there, you see 3 triangles there. Okay? And these triangles mean the spiritual will, the soul of love aspect, that's the central triangle, and the human field of daily life to control daily life. It's a symbol that work together and be of like minds to bring forth a new age, and that's what the 12-pointed star has come to symbolize. And the 9 people are the special ones who are meditating to bring forth the interrelated energies to conjure it into the world that are seen here. These are the world's elites. They're getting everybody to work together, because that's what this is about, to conjure a new Christ consciousness. That's why the blues are here, controlling the business, corporation, and religious world. And they Eastern through the tarot cards, and all gelled into one, a new world religion. We won't get into all the details here. There's a lot here. But that's what that's talking about. So let me jump on over to the next one here. So let's look at the colors that are used in this picture now. The occult world uses colors to convey messages too. And the colors used here symbolize things in the occult world that outline a plan or concept, and also reveals what they are conjuring into the world, what they are planning to do, if you know how to read it. So looking at this 2009 picture of FORESIGHT here, Smart Globalization, we see the use of the occult colors here to conjure forth something we are witnessing today, through its colors and its symbols here, through this straight road and all that. The colors used here express the type of spells that are released to achieve a new Aquarian age of enlightenment that brings forth chaos to destroy and replace God's creative order and design on earth. And I'm reading this from what I wrote here. Red is used in seduction to release energy, to stir up passions and anger and lust and physical gratification. It is used as a weapon to protect itself from outside attacks, especially from Christian prayers. You guys who do spiritual warfare, you need to know this. And to protect from setbacks. It is used to bring about fires, injuries, accidents, and violence, and is used to increase intimidation, to silence in a population. It is used to stir up hatred, to silence opponents. It is used in black magic to build up self-esteem and cohesion amongst themselves, that they are on the right path to bring all in line in thought and will. We got to silence and get fear, intimidation into our opponents. So we have a rise of Antifa worldwide. We have a rise in BLM. We have a rise in anarchy. We have a rise where every perverted thing has more rights than citizens. We have a rise where we now have to be afraid of our government, and the government is no longer afraid of us. Do you see the red magic being employed just by chance? White is used to bring about balance, harmony by opening the third eye of higher initiates to produce inspiration, guidance, and that cleanses the soul, to revive illumination, provide security, and destroy all destructive energies. So folks, what we have here is they want to bring forth this utopia into the world, this new world where we build it back better, and it's going to be great. They're already going to tout this with this lie, this deception. They don't realize everywhere where this has been practiced in past has always led to the mass murder and destruction of people's hopes, dreams, and their very lives. They don't want you to see that. So they want to keep the vision alive amongst themselves and the intellectual elite and the education system to train all the youth and brainwash them to accept this lie, that they're going to bring forth what? Let's go back and look at the picture. To bring about balance and harmony, opening your third eye, your new illumination of higher initiates. You'll have guidance from spiritual entities, a new world religion. You're going to be all one. You're going to be global. Next, you have the blues here. The blues here. Why? Because blue conjures occult power and inspiration from the divine to bring about various forms of expansion, to make the plan successful. Growth by replacing truth with new truth by means of new wisdom that brings about peace of mind and loyalty to a cause, to maintain harmony of a group. It is used to summon demons, to bring forth healing, inspiration, devotion, maintain serenity, and attack opponents. I'm just paraphrasing here. And they do so how? By replacing what is absolutely true with new truth, by means of new wisdom that brings about peace of mind and loyalty to a cause, to maintain harmony with the group. Think wokeness. Think what wokeness is doing to the world and to the country now. A new way of thinking that replaces absolute truth with their truth, which is based on deception and lies, to initiate you to a dystopian new age. Highly monitored, highly controlled. Okay? You enter into a new Aquarian utopic dystopia where you own nothing and you'll be happy about it. Blues are also used to induce depression, sadness, helplessness, lack of sympathy, and coldness, and make the world without hope and gloomy that cannot resist. That's what we're seeing today. I don't know if you've noticed this in the world, but a lot of people are feeling pretty gloomy and depressed right now by what they see happening in the world. Everything that was loving and kind and decent and good is being ripped apart and thrown in the trash can, and you're being silenced into submission. Do you have any idea what these people are doing, you spiritual warfare folks? You need to get it together. Yellow is for improving the initiate's intellect to transition all people into their new Aquarian paradigm. It brings forth the avatar spirit of peace and equilibrium, of peace and safety, and the avatar of synthesis to bring everything into harmony with the occult illumination that redefines right and wrong, that calls evil good and good evil. It says that in the Bible, folks. In the last days, they're going to call evil good and good evil, and they're doing so today. Wake up, smell some coffee, How do they do this? By using all forms of communication, such as computers, audio, video, TV, electronics, books, literature, speeches, writings, publication, interviews, and they project gossip and slander to control your thoughts and silence the opposition. Okay? And it also denotes connecting through astral projection to spirit guides with the blue that you see up here in this picture, that you connect with them. This is big in the New Age movement and is big in the church now, meeting angel guides. Just let you know you need to smell some coffee and wake up, you're being deceived. Only if you're a born-again Christian who have the Holy Spirit, you have no need of an angel guide. Okay, don't trust some angel. A true angel of God will tell you not to worship it and will not be doing some of the silly things that's happening in the church world today. Yellow is also used to conjure and to entice disloyalty and cowardice and decadence and sickness and death. And it produces madness and inconsistency in other people. In other words, you want to use yellow to conjure against your opponents so they become mad. They look in like a madman, and they are cowards, and you want to make them disloyal to one another. You want to overcome them by making them very decadent. You want to make them very inconsistent. Yellow is also an air element. Yellow rules the solar plexus chakra of the will related to the planet Mercury. So we have possibly one of these squares, these three squares, belonging to Mercury, okay? And brown symbolizes the earth, the wood, the stone, used to invoke wholesomeness, reliability, elegance, security, healing, grounding folks with a foundation that first appears as warm, cozy, neutral, stable, and very simplistic, and use of honesty to stimulate one's appetite to become steadfast, friendly, dependable, approachable. It symbolizes growth, fertility, comforting, nurturing others into a higher path. It symbolizes the earth. It's all about saving the planet. It makes you feel warm and cozy. We got to protect ourselves from climate change. And folks, I got to tell you, I never known when climate has never changed. Guess what? It just became summer here. Before that was a short spring in Colorado. Before that we had winter. Every year is different. Every year is different. I've been around for some time. I can guarantee you climate does change. So when they tell you they got to protect us from climate change, climate always going to change, and they're never going to be able to protect you from it. They're using it as a ploy in order to entrap you, to believe a lie, that you're in a very simplistic lie to make you wholesome and feel good that you're doing something. Now, it's good to take care of the planet and all that, so they got a half a truth there. But they're spreading it around in order to take utter control, collapse your economy, destroy your livelihood, and bring you under a subjection where you own nothing. You'll be happy about it. You will not own your own home, your own property. You will rent. You can't travel no more than 10 kilometers around your house. You'll be bored out of your tears, but at least you'll be programmed to be mind-numbed and enjoy your slavery. You serf. Okay, that's the idea here. Now, gold, all the golden shades that you see here are used to bring great luck, to bring it about. Intuition, that you have supernatural intuition and understanding, that you'll be able to practice divination for financial benefits, happiness, authority, that your reputation will grow, that this idea will spread, and to invoke health and protection and success, to acquire great mass of wealth, because this is what Klaus Schwab, this is what all the world's elites want. What they want is to collect all the world's wealth into one large kitty that they can control. And you will never know this money, this funny money that they have, has any value. In order to bring all the world into compliance, you have to increase the debt. You increase the national debt by monetizing it. Right now, I think since 2020 to 21, I think, if I'm trying to get all the numbers in my head, the gross national product of the entire world was something like 230, and I think it was $241 trillion, something like that. Well, we are now approaching 300 plus above that. There's no way that the total gross national product will ever be able to pay back the IMF and the world bankers and all that. There's no possible way. So they want to increase the debt, monetize the debt, to bring a country under control, and they do so with the gold idea of attaining power and wealth, and put all the money in one big pot, so to speak. This fits the Nazis' economic plan. This fits what they wanted to do in the French Revolution. This is what they wanted to do in World War I, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. But now we have the technology, and we have a world governing system in shape and being put in place now with the very players the Bible warns about in Revelations 18, where it talks about the great men of the earth and the great merchants of the earth, who mourn at the loss of their prosperity because they've been tricked and deceived to include a tyrannical system governed by this character called the Antichrist, who's going to go to war against them as well and take it all. That's how the devil operates. He kills, he robs, and destroys, and he lives true to his nature no matter what. So when you look at things like this, they're just not just pretty pictures. That is occultism gone wild there. So this last picture that I'm going to show here right now, so this is from the 2009 Rockefeller plan. So what you see here are two individuals flying a kite with an all-seeing eye over it with a lot of swirls of chaos, and you see the same colors. And now, if you look at that, I bet you can read their intent and what they're conjuring and bringing forth. We are seeing this today, and you got to understand, as it was in the days of Noah, so will it be when the Son of Man comes. I'll talk more about that next week, because we need to be prepared for the days of Noah. So with that, I'm going to conclude with that. If you're listening on the Daily Renegade or my channel, please become a member of the Daily Renegade today, because they have a propensity that YouTube can cut our channels of communication anytime. And we may only have websites. Hopefully a new system will come up and replace the communication smothering that is going on right now. But until then, if that happens, you have a place to go to still see the videos. Also, if you'd like to contact me or support me in any way, just look on the screen. I'll let this roll out, and you'll see my contact information. So with that, stay tuned next week as we look at the days of Noah and what the prophetic patterns and fingerprints look like that lead up to it. And a lot has to do with UFO phenomena and aliens and all that stuff. So stay tuned for the next week's show. God bless you all.